The first sign I was in trouble was not when my best friend slapped a $20 bill onto the picnic table and said, "I bet you can't get my sister to say yes." It was when his sister walked up behind me, took the bill, folded it once, and tucked it into the front pocket of my shirt. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "If you're going to gamble on my personal life, Owen, at least have the decency to make it interesting." That was Brooke Sullivan, 31 years old, building inspector for the city, 5'7" in work boots, dark hair pinned up like she had somewhere better to be, and a stare that could make grown contractors suddenly remember they had permits to file. And me? I'm Owen Mercer. I was 29, a custom furniture maker, and at that exact moment, I was holding a paper plate with a half-eaten burger and wondering whether it was possible to choke on shame. We were in Drew Sullivan's backyard on a Saturday afternoon, celebrating his promotion at the fire department. Drew had been my best friend since freshman year of college, which meant he knew all my weak spots and felt morally obligated to press them in public. His biggest weak spot for me? Brooke. Not that I had ever admitted it, not out loud, not even after 3 beers. Especially not after 3 beers. Brooke was Drew's older sister, which put her in the same category as police evidence, museum glass, and other things you were allowed to look at but absolutely not touch. She had been around for years, appearing at holidays, barbecues, birthdays, and the occasional emergency where Drew needed someone with a truck, a toolkit, or a glare strong enough to scare sense into him. She never flirted. She never giggled. She never pretended a man was charming when he was actually just loud. And maybe that was the problem. I had spent too many years watching people perform versions of themselves. My last serious girlfriend had left me for a guy she described as more exciting, which was a polite way of saying he owned a motorcycle and never remembered anyone's birthday. After that, I stopped auditioning. I built tables, I fixed chairs, I paid my bills. I went home alone. Safe, steady Owen, the human equivalent of a well-installed cabinet. But Brooke never made me feel boring. She made me feel seen, which was much worse. Drew leaned back in his lawn chair, grinning like a man who had just discovered fire. "Come on, Brooke, don't act offended. You say no to everybody." "I say no to idiots," she said. "Same thing in this town." A couple people laughed. Brooke didn't. She kept looking at me. The 20 in my shirt pocket felt like it was burning through cotton. I pulled it out and handed it back to Drew. "No bet." Drew blinked. "What?" "No bet?" I repeated. "Your sister is standing right here." Brooke's expression shifted just slightly. Not softer, exactly. Brooke didn't do soft in public. But something in her eyes paused. Drew groaned. "Mercer, don't get noble now. It was a joke." "Yeah," I said. "But it wasn't a funny one." That killed the laughter faster than rain on a campfire. For one awful second, I thought I had ruined the party. Then Brooke took the 20 from my hand, slapped it flat against Drew's chest, and said, "He's right. Your jokes are getting lazy." Drew looked between us. "Traitors, both of you." Brooke turned away, but not before I saw it. The corner of her mouth lifted. Not a smile. A warning label. I tried to go back to my burger, but my appetite had left the premises. I drifted toward the cooler, mostly to give my hands something to do. The backyard was full of familiar noise. Kids chasing each other near the fence, Drew's coworkers arguing about baseball, someone's aunt asking who made the potato salad like it was a criminal investigation. Then Brooke appeared beside me and reached into the cooler. Her shoulder brushed mine. It was nothing, a half second of contact. But I noticed the faint scent of sawdust and citrus on her, and that annoyed me because sawdust was supposed to be my territory. "You always get that serious at parties?" she asked. I glanced at her. "Only when I'm being used as a weapon in a sibling dispute." "Please, if you were a weapon, you'd be something handcrafted and unnecessarily expensive." "A walnut-handled butter knife." "Exactly," I laughed before I could stop myself. Brooke pulled out a can of sparkling water and cracked it open. No beer, no cocktail, just lime water, and an expression that said she'd survived worse than backyards full of men with opinions. She nodded toward the patio. "Drew does that when he's nervous. Insults people. Performs." She took a sip. He got promoted, so now he has to prove he's still the same idiot. He is. I know, that's the problem. I love the idiot. There it was again. That thing she did. She could cut a man down with one sentence, then say something honest enough to make the ground feel uneven. I leaned against the cooler. For what it's worth, I don't think you say no to everybody. Her eyebrow rose. No? I think you wait until someone gives you a good reason to say yes. Brooke studied me over the rim of her can. The backyard noise seemed to dim a notch. And what would you know about my reasons? She asked. I should have made a joke, I almost did. But Brooke had a way of making jokes feel like cowardice. Not much, I admitted. Just that people call you tough like it's an insult. But I've seen you check on your mom's porch rail before anyone else noticed it was loose. I've seen you leave family dinners early because a contractor called some single mother difficult for asking about mold. And I've seen Drew calm down when you walk into a room, even if he pretends you irritate him. Her face changed. This time I couldn't name it. Surprise, maybe, or caution. You pay attention, she said quietly. Occupational hazard. Furniture makers notice stress points. That got me the smile, a real one, small, reluctant, devastating. Then Drew shouted from across the yard, Hey, Owen! You ask her yet, or did your courage file for unemployment? Brooke closed her eyes for 1 second. I wanted to disappear into the cooler. Instead, she stepped closer. Not a lot. Enough that I could see a tiny fleck of gold in her left eye. So, she said, were you going to ask me something? My mouth went dry. Brooke, careful, she said. This is where men either get honest or get predictable. That should have scared me off. It didn't. Maybe because I was tired of being safe. Maybe because I had spent years pretending not to notice how her laugh felt like a match in a dark room. Maybe because she had just given me a choice. And for once, I didn't want to choose the easy exit. I was going to ask if you'd have dinner with me, I said. Not because of Drew, not because of the bet. Because I've wanted to ask for a while and kept telling myself I had good reasons not to. Her gaze held mine. And what were those reasons? You're Drew's sister. Accurate. You intimidate most men. I prefer efficiently filter. And I didn't want to be one more guy wasting your time. Something moved behind her expression then. A small crack in the armor. Dinner, she said. I nodded. Dinner. With you. That's the general format. No audience, no Drew, no performance. Definitely no Drew. Brooke looked past me toward her brother, who was pretending not to watch us from beside the grill and failing with his entire face. Then she looked back at me. Yes, she said. My heart did something deeply undignified. Yes? Yes, Owen. Don't make me repeat it. I'm new at this. I smiled before I could stop myself. Friday? Thursday, she said. If I wait until Friday, I'll overthink it and cancel. That was the first vulnerable thing I'd ever heard Brooke Sullivan admit. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a door opening half an inch. I'll pick you up Thursday, I said. Don't bring flowers. Noted. And don't take me somewhere with tiny food stacked vertically. I was thinking burgers. She tilted her head. Risky choice after today's burger. I know a place where the buns don't collapse under pressure. Unlike some men. Exactly. She laughed then, and I swear Drew's entire backyard turned to look. Because Brooke Sullivan laughing at a man was apparently a neighborhood event. For a few minutes, I forgot about the bet. I forgot about Drew. I forgot about the $20 bill and the fact that I had just stepped over a line I had respected for almost 7 years. All I could think was that Brooke had said yes. To me. Then, Drew's mother, Linda, walked out of the house holding Brooke's phone. Brooke, she called, her voice careful in a way that made Brooke's smile vanish. Honey, it keeps ringing. Brooke took the phone, glanced at the screen, and went completely still. I didn't mean to look, but I was close enough to see the name flashing there. Caleb. Brooke didn't answer. She just turned the phone face down in her palm and looked at me like our Thursday dinner had suddenly become more dangerous than either of us expected. Then she said, Owen, before you decide you still want to take me out, there's something you should know. There are phrases that sober up a man faster than black coffee. We need to talk. I'm late. Before you decide you still want to take me out. That last one hit me right in the ribs. Brooke stood near the cooler with her phone face down in her hand, all the color gone from the easy, almost smile she'd given me 30 seconds earlier. Behind her, Drew was pretending not to hover. Badly. I lowered my voice. Do you want to step out front? Brooke looked at me for a beat, as if she expected me to take one giant step backward and thank her for the warning. When I didn't, she nodded. We cut through the side gate away from the backyard noise. The front of Drew's house was quieter, shaded by two old maple trees and the kind of afternoon light that made everything look gentler than it was. Brooke stopped beside my truck. Of course she did, because fate had apparently decided my tailgate was the designated location for emotional damage. She stared down at her phone. Caleb is my ex-fiancé. I kept my face still. Not because I felt still, because the word fiancé landed hard. How long ago? I asked. 3 years since I ended it. 2 since he stopped trying to turn every conversation into a negotiation. And now he calls every few months when he remembers I exist and wants something. I watched her thumb rub once over the edge of her phone case. A nervous habit. Brooke Sullivan had nervous habits. The discovery felt too intimate to look at directly. What does he want this time? I asked. Her laugh had no humor in it. Probably money or absolution. He was good at wanting both. I leaned back against the truck, leaving space between us. You don't owe me an explanation. I know. Then why are you giving me one? She looked up. There she was again. Not the inspector, not Drew's terrifying sister, just Brooke, trying not to flinch before the blow landed. Because I said yes, she said, and I don't do that unless I mean it. My chest tightened. That was the thing about Brooke. She could hand you one honest sentence and make it feel like more than anyone else's speech. I turned slightly toward her. Then I'll say this once so you don't have to guess. Caleb calling doesn't change Thursday? Her eyes narrowed. You don't know anything about him. I know you didn't answer. That's your standard? No. I smiled a little. My standard is that you looked me in the eye and said yes like it cost you something. I'm not giving that back because some guy's name lit up your phone. She studied me so long I wondered if I'd said too much. Then she stepped closer and poked my chest with one finger. You have a problem, Mercer. Only one? You make reasonable sound dangerous. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. It was not a compliment. It had structure. That did it. Her mouth tilted, reluctant and warm, and something in me unclenched. For a moment, it was just the two of us beside my truck, hidden from the backyard by the fence close enough that I could see where a strand of dark hair had escaped her clip and curled against her cheek. I wanted to touch it. I didn't. Brooke glanced down at the space between us. You're not going to ask what happened? Not unless you want to tell me. I thought men hated not knowing. Furniture makers live with mystery. You ever open up an antique cabinet and try to figure out what the last guy was thinking? Usually, I'm the one failing the antique cabinet. You'd pass inspection. Her eyes flicked to mine. Careful, compliments before a first date can look like bribery. I don't have enough money to bribe you. True. I laughed, and this time she laughed with me, quietly, like she was surprised she still could. Then her phone buzzed again. The sound snapped between us. Brooke looked down, jaw tightening. I didn't touch her. I wanted to, but I knew enough to know that wanting wasn't permission. She hit decline. Then she turned the phone off completely. When she looked back at me, something had settled in her expression. I was engaged to him for 8 months, she said. He liked that I was strong until my strength got inconvenient. He liked my job until I wouldn't bend rules for his friends. He liked being with me until he realized I wasn't going to admire every bad decision and call it ambition. I stayed quiet. He didn't hit me, she said quickly, like she'd had to clarify that before. He didn't cheat in some dramatic way. It was smaller, meaner. He made me feel like I was hard to love because I didn't make myself easy to handle. Anger rose in me, hot and useless. But Brooke wasn't asking for my anger. She was offering me a wound and waiting to see if I'd poke it, so I said, "He was wrong." Her throat moved. "You don't know that." "I do." "Owen, I know because Drew loves you. Your mom loves you. Every contractor in the city who isn't cutting corners respects you, even if they complain about it." And I stopped because the next words had teeth. Brooke's eyes softened. "And you?" she asked. There it was, the challenge, the invitation. I could have made a joke again. I didn't. "And I've spent years looking forward to any room you walked into," I said. "So if you're hard to love, Brooke, it might be because some men show up with the wrong tools." She stared at me. The street was quiet. Somewhere behind the house, Drew shouted at someone for overcooking a hot dog. Brooke took one step closer, then another. "You talk like that on Thursday," she said, voice low, "and I might not be responsible for my actions." My pulse kicked. "What kind of actions?" "Don't get ambitious." Too late. For one charged second, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she reached up and fixed the collar of my shirt where the 20 had crumpled it earlier. Her fingers brushed my throat, light and deliberate. It was barely contact. It still ran through me like a lit fuse. "There," she said. "Presentable." "I wasn't before?" "You were earnest. It's similar, but less dangerous to bystanders." I caught her hand before she could drop it. Not tight. Just enough to ask. Her fingers rested in mine. She could have pulled away, she didn't. The relief of that nearly undid me. "Thursday," I said. "Thursday," she echoed. Then, because Brooke apparently believed mercy was for weaker women, she squeezed my hand once and added, "Pick me up at 7. Wear that blue shirt you have." I blinked. "You know my shirts?" I'm observant. I thought that was my line. "You notice stress points. I notice shoulders." My brain briefly lost all language. Brooke smiled like she knew it. Then the front door opened and Drew appeared on the porch, squinting at us. "Everything okay?" Brooke didn't snatch her hand away. She let go slowly like it had been her decision from beginning to end. "Fine," she called. "I'm going on a date with Owen." Drew froze. I had seen the man run into burning buildings, but this was apparently too much. "With Owen?" "No," Brooke said. "The other Owen I keep by the cooler." Drew pointed at me. "If you hurt her, I'll hurt him myself," Brooke said. Drew lowered his finger. "Fair." I should have been uncomfortable. Instead, I felt absurdly happy. Brooke turned back to me, and for the first time all afternoon, the shadow Caleb had cast over her face was gone. Not forgotten, just not winning. She tilted her head toward the backyard. "Come on, Mercer. If we stay out here much longer, Drew will start planning our breakup speech." I opened the gate for her. "Does this mean I passed the pre-date inspection?" Brooke paused beside me, close enough that her shoulder brushed my arm. "For now," she said, "but I'll need a more thorough evaluation Thursday." Then she walked back into the party, leaving me standing there like a fool with a hammer in his chest and the distinct, terrifying feeling that the safest thing in my life had just become the biggest risk I wanted to take. By Thursday at 6:42, I had changed shirts twice. Not because I was vain, because Brooke Sullivan had specifically requested the blue shirt, and suddenly every blue shirt I owned looked like evidence in a trial where I was accused of trying too hard. At 6:55, I stood on her porch with no flowers as instructed. Instead, I held a small paper bag. Brooke opened the door before I knocked. She wore dark jeans, ankle boots, and a green sweater that made her eyes look unfair. Her hair was down, falling around her shoulders in loose waves, and for a second I forgot the speech I'd practiced on the drive over. She looked at the bag. "If that's flowers, I'm shutting the door." "It's not flowers." "Chocolate." "No." "A legal document releasing you from responsibility if this date goes badly?" I should have thought of that. She took the bag from me and looked inside. Her expression shifted. Inside was a small wooden key tray, simple walnut with a shallow groove along one side, and her initials carved tiny in the corner. I'd made it the night before because apparently I was the kind of man who handled romantic panic with sandpaper. Brooke ran her thumb over the initials. "You made this?" "Yeah." "For my keys?" "Or loose change?" or tiny knives. Whatever tough women keep near the door. She looked up at me. You made me an organizational object. I panicked. Her mouth curved. It's annoyingly thoughtful. I can take it back. Try! She stepped aside to let me in, and her house hit me in small details. Work boots by the door, a stack of inspection reports on the kitchen table. A half-finished crossword beside a mug. No clutter, but not cold. A home built by someone who trusted function more than decoration and still kept a soft blue blanket folded over the couch. She set the tray on the table by the door, then dropped her keys into it. The sound was small. It felt like a ceremony. There, she said, you've entered the rotation. Big night for me. Don't get smug. My mail basket has seniority. At dinner, I learned Brooke had opinions about everything. Not loud opinions, precise ones. The best fries were the ones stolen off someone else's plate. People who said they hated drama usually carried it in both hands. The city's new courthouse addition was architectural panic with windows. We sat in a corner booth at a burger place by the river where the lights were warm and the food came wrapped in paper. Brooke ordered a bacon cheeseburger, extra pickles, and gave me a look when I asked for no onions. What? I said. No onions? I have a date. With me. Exactly. You think I can be frightened off by onions? I'm trying to be considerate. You're trying to appear kissable. I nearly dropped a fry. Brooke smiled into her water. You enjoy ambushes, I said. I enjoy accuracy. Fine, yes, I was attempting kissability. And now I'm regretting admitting that out loud. Don't, it was cute. The word cute should not have had the power to knock the air out of me, but from Brooke it felt like a medal. Halfway through dinner, her phone lit up on the table. Caleb. Her smile thinned. I saw her see it. I saw her shoulders lift just barely, as if bracing for cold water. She turned the phone face down. Do you need to get that? I asked. No. One word. Solid as a door. Then she looked at me like she expected me to ask more. I didn't. Instead, I slid the little basket of fries between us. Emergency fry? Her gaze dropped to the basket, then back to me. Slowly, the tension left her mouth. You think fried potatoes solve emotional discomfort? No, but they can buy us time until one of us says something brave. She picked up a fry. And which one of us is that going to be? I'm wearing the requested shirt. I've done my part. Brooke laughed, and the table felt warm again. After dinner, neither of us moved to leave. The server refilled our waters. The families around us changed over. Outside, the river caught the last of the sunset and broke it into gold pieces. Brooke traced a circle on her glass with one finger. I almost canceled. I know. Her eyes lifted. You do? You told me you might. I hate that I did. I liked it. That I almost canceled? That you trusted me enough to warn me. She sat back, studying me. You make it hard to keep my guard up. Is that bad? It's inconvenient. I've been called worse. No. Her voice softened. I mean it, Owen. I don't know what to do with someone who doesn't push. My chest tightened. I can push, I said, if you want. Her eyebrow rose. I felt heat climb my neck. Emotionally, I meant emotionally. Shame, I was briefly intrigued. Brooke. She grinned, and I lost a little more of my good sense. Then her hand appeared palm up on the table. Not dramatic, not needy, just there, waiting. I looked at it, then at her. This is me reaching, she said quietly. Don't make it weird. I placed my hand in hers. Her fingers closed around mine. I would never, I said, voice rough. You already are. Fair. Her thumb brushed over my knuckles once, and every loud part of the restaurant seemed to fall away. She wasn't hiding now, not behind sarcasm, not behind toughness, not behind the clean, sharp edges she used to keep the world manageable. She was looking at me like she wanted to stay. So I stayed with her. Afterward, we walked along the river path. The air had cooled, and Brooke crossed her arms against it before pretending she wasn't cold. I took off my jacket and held it out. She gave it a suspicious look. If this is a move, it's an old one. Classics endure for a reason. I have body heat. Congratulations. She rolled her eyes but took the jacket. When she slipped into it, the sleeves swallowed her hands. It was ridiculous. It was also the best thing I had ever seen. Don't say anything, she warned. I wasn't. You were thinking loudly. I respect the jacket. You better. We stopped by the railing where the river moved black and silver beneath the street lamps. Brooke stood close beside me, her shoulder touching my arm. This time, neither of us pretended it was accidental. I had fun, she said. You sound surprised. I am. Ouch. Not because of you. She looked down at the water. Because I forgot dates could feel like this. Like what? She was quiet for a long moment. Like I'm not being interviewed for a role I don't want. I turned toward her. She did too. The space between us changed. Not suddenly, not like lightning. Like a door that had been opening all night finally gave way. I lifted my hand slowly, giving her every chance to step back and brush that loose strand of hair from her cheek. Brooke's breath caught. Still okay? I asked. Her eyes met mine. If you ask me that gently again, I'm going to kiss you just to shut you up. I'm okay with that outcome. She stepped into me and kissed me. Not tentative, not careless either. Her hand gripped the front of my blue shirt, the one she'd noticed, the one I'd nearly overthought into oblivion, and her mouth was warm and certain under mine. For a second, I forgot my name. Then I kissed her back. I held her waist, careful at first, until she made a small, impatient sound and moved closer. That sound did damage to me. Permanent, probably. When we parted, her forehead rested near my jaw. Thorough evaluation? I asked, because apparently I had a death wish. She laughed against my chest. You're passing. I held her there by the river, my jacket around her shoulders, her hand still fisted in my shirt. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel safe. I felt chosen. Her phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. We both stilled. Brooke pulled it out, looked at the screen, and exhaled through her nose. Caleb again. This time, beneath the missed calls, there was a text preview. I know you're with him. Brooke's face went blank in a way I hated. But before I could speak, she turned the phone off, slid it back into the pocket, and looked up at me. No, she said firmly. He doesn't get the last moment of this date. Then she rose on her toes and kissed me again, softer this time. Slower. A choice made twice. When she pulled back, her eyes were steady. Take me home, Owen, she said, and on the way tell me something boring and real. I've had enough ghosts for one night. So I told her about a maple table I was building for a couple who couldn't agree on chair height, and she held my hand the entire walk back to the truck. I did not kiss Brooke goodnight on her porch. Technically, she kissed me. I walked her to the door like a gentleman, hands in my pockets, fully prepared to say something mature like, I had a great time. Brooke set my jacket over one arm, looked at me for 3 seconds and said, You're overthinking. I'm respecting the moment. You're hovering like a nervous porch decoration. Romantic. Debatable. Then she caught my shirt front again and pulled me down. The second kiss was different from the one by the river. Less surprise, more decision. Her back touched the door and her fingers slid up to the side of my neck like she'd been waiting all night to find out whether I'd lean closer. I did. I was not a stupid man. When she broke away, her mouth stayed near mine. Saturday, she whispered. I blinked. What about it? Second date, my house, I cook. You cook? Inspection is over. That sounds like a threat. It's pasta. I accept. Her smile softened, and for a second I saw it again, the private Brooke, the one no one at the barbecue had been allowed to meet. Good night, Owen. Good night. I made it halfway down the walk before she called. Mercer. I turned. She stood in the doorway with my jacket still around her shoulders. Blue shirt was the right call. Then she shut the door. I drove home like a man who had just been handed a winning lottery ticket and told not to smile suspiciously. By Saturday afternoon, the entire Sullivan family knew. Drew called me at 10 in the morning. You kissed my sister. I nearly cut my thumb on a chisel. Hello to you too. Did you? I'm not discussing that with you. That means yes. It means I value my life. It means yes. I set the chisel down. Drew. He went quiet. That was rare enough to alarm me. I'm not mad, he said finally. Could have fooled me. I'm, no, recalibrating. Try not to hurt yourself. She's different with you. My hand tightened around the phone. How? Less like she's waiting for someone to prove her right. That landed deep. I looked around my workshop at the clean lines of unfinished tables, the smell of cedar and oil, the steady things I understood. Brooke was not steady. Brooke was a locked door, a lit match, a structural load I hadn't calculated for. And still, every part of me wanted in. I'm not playing around with her, I said. I know. Drew exhaled. That's what scares me. Before I could ask what he meant, he hung up. Brooke's house smelled like garlic, basil, and something rich simmering on the stove when I arrived at 7. She opened the door barefoot, hair clipped up badly, wearing jeans and an old black t-shirt that said, "Permits are not optional." I stared. She glanced down. What? That shirt is aggressive. This is my casual personality. I'm into it. Her eyes warmed. Careful, Mercer. Compliment the shirt too much, and I'll wear it to meet your mother. My mother would respect the message. Then she has taste. Dinner was pasta with spicy sausage, bread she claimed not to have baked but clearly had, and a salad she apologized for because leaves are not the point of a meal. We ate at her kitchen table, knees bumping once, then again, until she finally hooked her foot around the leg of my chair and dragged me 2 inches closer. There, she said, more efficient. Is this a seating code requirement? Personal preference. Those 2 words did more to me than they should have. After dinner, I washed dishes while she dried, despite her arguing that guesses didn't work. I make furniture, I said. My love language is handling splinters and wet plates. Brooke paused with a towel in her hands. I realized what I'd said. I didn't mean... I know. Her voice was quiet. But don't take it back. So I didn't. We stood side by side at her sink, our reflections faint in the dark kitchen window. Her shoulder brushed mine. Then she leaned her hip against the counter and looked at me like she'd made a decision. Caleb came by my office yesterday. My stomach went tight. She held up a hand before I could speak. I'm fine. He didn't threaten me. He just wanted to talk. About what? About how he's changed, about how I'm overreacting, about how seeing me with someone else made him realize what he lost. I dried my hands slowly. And what did you say? I told him he lost access, not property. Pride hit me so hard it almost hurt. That's a good line, I said. I practiced in the bathroom mirror. The honesty of it cracked me open. I took 1 step closer. Were you scared? Her jaw worked. Yes, she said. Not of him, exactly. Of becoming the version of myself I was with him. The one who explained and defended and softened every boundary so he wouldn't call me cruel. I reached for her hand. She gave it to me. I don't want you to soften your boundaries for me, I said. I want to know where they are. Her eyes shone, but her mouth turned wry. That is a dangerously attractive sentence. I'm full of them. Don't ruin it. I smiled and she stepped into me, resting her forehead against my chest. The move was so unguarded I barely breathed. I wrapped my arms around her, not to protect her, to hold the woman who had chosen my kitchen table honesty, my blue shirt, my awkward gift, my careful hands. She sighed like she'd been carrying something heavy and had finally set down one corner. I like you, she murmured into my shirt. My heart stopped behaving. I like you too. No, I mean, she leaned back enough to look up at me. I like you in a way that makes me want to make room. That's new for me. There are moments when a man should say something perfect. I kissed her instead. Brooke made a soft sound and rose into it, hands sliding around my waist. The kiss started tender, then deepened, slow and hungry, with the kitchen light warm above us and rain beginning to tap against the windows. When we parted, she touched her thumb to my lower lip. Your trouble, she said. I was considered very reliable until recently. Not by me. No. She shook her head. I knew you were dangerous the minute you refused that bet. I laughed softly. That was my least seductive moment. To you, her phone rang from the table. We both looked. Not Caleb. Drew. Brooke answered on speaker. If you're checking whether your friend is alive, he is. I need you both to listen, Drew said, voice clipped. Caleb just showed up at the station asking about Owen. Brooke's face went cold. I reached for her hand again, and she gripped mine hard. Drew continued. He didn't make a scene, but he was fishing. Where Owen works, where he lives. I told him to get lost. Brooke closed her eyes. Thanks, she said. I'll handle it. Brooke, I said I'll handle it. She ended the call before Drew could argue. For a second, rain filled the silence. Then Brooke stepped away from me, shoulders squaring, armor locking into place piece by piece. I hated that I could see it happen now. I should have known, she said. I should have... Hey. I kept my voice gentle. Come back here. She looked at me. I held out my hand. Not a command, an invitation. Her expression trembled at the edges. Then she came. I pulled her close, and she let me. I'm angry, she whispered. I know. I'm embarrassed. You don't have to be. I hate that he touched this. Us. I cupped her face and made sure she could see me. He didn't. This is still ours. Her breath caught. Then she kissed me, fierce and shaking, like she needed to prove it. I kissed her back with everything I had. When she rested her forehead against mine, her eyes were clearer. Tomorrow, she said, I'm calling a lawyer. Not because I'm helpless, because I'm done letting him decide when I get peace. I'll drive you if you want. I want. She swallowed. And after that, I want lunch somewhere terrible with good fries. I smiled. That's oddly specific. I'm building a life, Mercer. Details matter. Outside, tires hissed on the wet street. A car slowed in front of the house. Brooke stiffened in my arms. Headlights washed across her window, lingered, then moved on into the dark. The car kept going. For 3 seconds, neither of us moved. Then Brooke exhaled so hard it sounded like surrender, and fury had left her body at the same time. I hate this, she said. I know. No. She stepped back enough to look at me. I hate that my first instinct is to make myself smaller so this doesn't splash on you. I reached for her hands. Brooke, I'm serious. This is the part where I usually start calculating what I can handle alone. And? Her fingers tightened around mine. And I don't want to do that with you. There it was. Not a grand declaration. Not violins in the rain. Just Brooke Sullivan standing in her kitchen, barefoot and brave, choosing not to disappear behind her own armor. I kissed her knuckles. Then don't. Her eyes went glossy. You make it sound simple. No, I make cabinets. Those are simple. This is terrifying. That got a wet laugh out of her. Good, she said. I'd hate to be terrified alone. The next morning, I drove her to the lawyer's office. Brooke wore her inspection boots, and the expression she used on men who thought, probably up to code, was a legal defense. She didn't need me to speak for her. She didn't need me to save her. She wanted me in the chair beside her. That mattered more. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Priya Desai, listened while Brooke laid everything out. Calls, texts, the office visit. Caleb asking Drew where I lived. Priya didn't dramatize it. She didn't dismiss it either. We'll send a formal no-contact letter today, she said. If he violates it, document everything. Don't engage, don't explain. Boundaries don't require debate. Brooke glanced at me. I mouthed, good line. She almost smiled. Afterward, we went to the worst diner in the county and ordered fries that tasted like salt, grease, and victory. Brooke dunked one in ketchup and said, this place would fail 3 inspections. Should we leave? Absolutely not. She slid into my side of the booth instead of sitting across from me. I looked down at her thigh pressed against mine. This a new seating code? Personal preference. I put my arm along the back of the booth. She leaned into me like she'd been doing it for years. For a while, we just ate fries and watched rain beat on the window. Then Brooke said, I'm not going to pretend I'm suddenly easy. I didn't order easy. Her gaze lifted. I continued, I like you exact. Difficult. Funny when you're trying not to be. Brave when you're scared. And annoyingly correct about onions. You're admitting I was right? Don't make me regret vulnerability. She smiled, then rested her head on my shoulder. I choose you too, she said quietly. Too. Like she'd heard the words I hadn't been brave enough to say yet. That night, Caleb called once. Brooke didn't answer. He texted twice. She forwarded both to Priya. 3 days later, he showed up outside the city building, not yelling, not threatening. Just standing there like presence alone could pull Brooke backward. It didn't. She walked out with 2 coworkers, looked him in the eye, and said, You received the letter. Leave. When he tried to argue, she didn't explain. She went back inside and called the police. The story could have become about him then. It didn't, because Brooke refused to hand him the plot. By the following week, Caleb was officially warned. By the end of the month, after one more message he claimed was closure, Priya filed for a protective order. Drew wanted to personally launch him into the sun, but Brooke told him there was a waiting list. I was there for the hard days. More importantly, I was there for the ordinary ones. Tuesday tacos, Sunday coffee. Her laughing at me because I talked to stubborn table legs like they were misbehaving pets. Me learning that Brooke sang badly in the car, but only when she thought I wasn't listening. Our third date was at my workshop. She walked around touching sanded edges and inspecting joints with devastating seriousness. This is beautiful, she said, hand resting on a cherrywood dining table. Careful. Compliments before dessert can look like bribery. She looked at me over her shoulder. Who said anything about dessert? I set down the rag I'd been holding. She crossed the room slowly, wearing that look I now knew meant I was in very serious trouble. When she reached me, she put both hands on my chest. You know, she said, Drew still thinks this started because of his bet. Drew thinks smoke detectors are optional if you wave a towel fast enough. True. I brushed my thumb along her jaw. It started before the bet. Her eyes softened. When? I thought about lying, making it sound casual, less vulnerable. But Brooke had never given me less than the truth, even when it cost her. The night your mom's porch rail broke, I said. You fixed it in the dark with a flashlight between your teeth, then yelled at Drew for handing you the wrong screws. I remember thinking, whoever gets loved by her will never wonder if she means it. Her lips parted. That was 4 years ago, she whispered. I know. You waited 4 years? I'm patient. You're ridiculous. Also true. She rose onto her toes and kissed me in the middle of my workshop, surrounded by sawdust and unfinished wood and everything I used to build things that lasted. This time, I didn't feel like I was stepping over a line. I felt like I was finally walking through the door. 6 months later, Drew hosted another backyard barbecue. Same picnic table, same cooler, same grill he claimed worked better with personality, which meant one side burned everything and the other side remained legally raw. Brooke arrived with me. Not behind me, not ahead of me, with me. Her keys were in the walnut tray by her door now, every day. My jacket lived on her coat rack. A drawer in my dresser held 2 of her shirts, one of which still warned that permits were not optional. We weren't perfect. She still overthought. I still went quiet when I worried I'd said too much. Sometimes Caleb's name appeared in paperwork, a fading stain the legal system was slowly washing out. But he wasn't between us. No one was. Drew saw us walk in holding hands and groaned. I created a monster. Brooke lifted an eyebrow. You created nothing. You lost $20 and almost ruined your own party. I brought people together. You objectified my dating life. With love. I pulled a folded 20 from my pocket and placed it on the picnic table. Drew stared at it. What's that? Your original bet. Brooke crossed her arms. He didn't take the bet. No, I said, but I figured we should settle accounts. Drew squinted. Meaning? I took Brooke's hand. Her expression changed the instant she felt me tremble. Not fear. Recognition. I looked at Drew, then at Linda, then back at the woman who had terrified me before I knew she was also the safest place I'd ever wanted to be. Meaning I didn't get her to say yes, I said. I asked. She chose. Brooke's eyes shone, then I turned fully to her. And I'm going to keep asking. Dinner, Sunday mornings, bad fries, hard days, easy ones. Whatever comes next. I swallowed. So, Brooke Sullivan, will you keep choosing me? The whole backyard went silent. Brooke stared at me, then at the 20 on the table, then back at me. You're asking me this at my brother's barbecue? I panicked. Her laugh broke, bright and tearful. Then she took the 20, folded it once, and tucked it into my shirt pocket exactly like she had that first day. Yes, she said. But if you ever gamble on my personal life again, I'm keeping the cash. I pulled her into my arms as everyone around us cheered. Drew shouted something about betrayal. Linda cried. The grill smoked like it had been waiting for a dramatic cue. Aunt Brooke kissed me in the middle of that noisy backyard, one hand fisted in my blue shirt, the other holding on like she meant it. She always meant it. What would you have done if your best friend bet you couldn't get his tough sister to say yes? And she heard the whole thing. Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.